From the outside, the shop looked like any other quiet business in Hatton Garden. Bright glass counters, tidy rows of designer watches, gold bars arranged with showroom precision. Anyone passing by saw nothing more than a polished jewellery store catering to London's well-heeled. But behind the door marked staff only, the picture was very different. Bundles of cash sat stacked in boxes and bags, still worn from the streets they'd been collected from. The customers weren't tourists or executives browsing gifts. They were couriers, brokers, and traffickers who spoke in low voices and carried encrypted phones instead of briefcases. Every receipt issued at the counter appeared legitimate. Every sale looked clean. Yet beneath those printed slips was a river of drug money being washed, disguised, and fed straight back into an operation that stretched far beyond London. And at the center of this quiet laundering machine were two names almost no one in the district had heard before: Matthew Byron and Bo Devlin. Byron, older and colder in demeanor, kept himself tucked away in Sevenoaks, the sort of Kent town associated more with golf clubs than global cocaine pipelines. Calm, controlled and methodical, he operated like a man who preferred shadows to noise. His partner, Bo Devlin, was younger and sharper, shaped by the rougher blocks of East London. He dealt with the weight, the movement, the hands-on tasks. Together, they built a cocaine network valued at nearly £190 million, moving multi-ton loads of Class A drugs into the UK, while simultaneously laundering the profits through gold, high-end goods, and a maze of shell companies. They believed they were invisible. They trusted their encrypted devices. And for years, it worked, until their own messages became the very evidence that exposed everything. This is the story of Matthew Byron and Bo Devlin, two men who turned bananas, bullion, and burner phones into one of the most advanced cocaine pipelines the UK has seen. Byron didn't match the stereotype. No flashy lifestyle, no obvious displays of wealth. He lived quietly in Sevenoaks, drove a respectable new Jaguar, and was building a house next to his parents. For neighbors, he blended in easily, a man with a sensible car and a predictable routine. But on the encrypted network EncroChat, he lived a double life under aliases like Slick Valley and Official Cleaner. Behind those profiles was a man orchestrating shipments, coordinating finance streams, and connecting with contacts far beyond Britain's borders. He rarely touched the physical product himself. Instead, he designed the system, a logistical engine running from South America to European ports, and finally into the UK. His strength wasn't muscle, it was control. Byron was clinical, disciplined, and frighteningly organized. At just 33, Devlin operated under the EncroChat handle Scalp Cleaner. He had grown up around noise, pressure, and street-level chaos, and he adapted quickly. He was the one who delivered gold to the Hatton Garden jeweller. He arranged the disposal of dummy banana loads once they'd served their purpose. When cash needed to be moved, sometimes £100,000 in a single sweep, he handled it. Different worlds, different temperaments, but they shared one essential trait: silence. No gang wars, no public profile, no attention. They didn't play small, but they played quietly. By the time investigators caught up to them, they weren't simply drug dealers. They were importers, traffickers, launderers, and suppliers with direct links to producers in South America. Their discussions weren't about kilos, they spoke in tons. Their contacts weren't local runners or mid-tier distributors. They communicated directly with South American wholesalers, people handling cargo, by the ton. EncroChat logs later recovered showed Bayan casually discussing 5-ton deals, sometimes more. Between March and June 2020, the pair worked on importing around 5 tons of cocaine through European ports, including Antwerp and other unnamed entry points. The drugs left Colombia or Ecuador disguised within legitimate shipments of produce. It was commerce fused with criminal logistics. Photos on Bayan's phone later revealed lorries stalled at the Colombia-Ecuador border and images of cargo under inspection. Proof that these weren't theoretical plans. These were real movements, tracked step by step. Once on European soil, the product was broken down, rerouted, and hidden inside consignments designed to blend seamlessly with legal cargo. Everything, from border timings to warehouse storage, was documented in coded language. Bayan managed the chain end to end. Devlin, though subordinate, understood it deeply enough to reference weights, schedules, and cost calculations. One single shipment cost them £3 million for 600 kilos, a price tag that made it clear these weren't low-grade imports. This was high-purity supply, straight from source. For almost 8 years, the pipeline ran uninterrupted. Their import method was deceptively simple. Bananas. The fruit arrived by the pallet, tons of it. On documents, the loads looked identical to thousands of others entering the UK every week. But inside, selected consignments were tightly wrapped blocks of cocaine. To pull this off, Bayan and Devlin created layers of fake companies, complete with names, addresses, and VAT numbers. These ghost businesses allowed them to mask shipments, dodge routine scrutiny, and create the illusion of a legitimate trade network. The duo didn't only rely on concealment, they relied on testing the system. Bayan arranged dummy runs, full banana shipments containing no drugs, just to ensure the route was safe. If customs cleared the clean load, the real one followed. One trial cost £300,000, and when the fruit became unsellable, Bayan ordered Devlin to burn the pallets. No evidence, no trail.
Not everything arrived by container. Bayan also spoke of plug cars, ordinary vehicles modified with hidden compartments carved into their bodywork. The specialist who built these compartments was known only as the plug boss, a shadow figure skilled at turning small cars into transport vessels, capable of hiding up to 25 kilos per trip. Drivers were paid £50,000 for each successful run. Every bolt, every seal, every movement was engineered for concealment. And for years, nothing triggered suspicion. Drugs in, cash out, and the fruit crates kept coming. The gold looked legitimate. It even came with proper documentation. But behind the counter at the Hatton Garden jeweller stood Chris O'Shea, a 56-year-old operating from Avery Hill Road in New Eltham. On EncroChat, he was known as All-Star Ginner. To Bayan and Devlin, he wasn't just a jeweller. He was the heart of their financial operation. O'Shea exchanged vast amounts of street cash for gold bars and designer watches. Bayan wasn't buying small pieces. He purchased 10 to 15 bars at once, each costing around £40,000. Images later recovered from his phone showed stacks of gold lined up like trophies. Silent evidence of laundering on a massive scale. O'Shea charged a 3% commission, but in return, illegal money emerged as clean assets ready to be sold or hidden. Investigators later uncovered that every gram of gold was tied back to cocaine profits. For years, the operation blended seamlessly into the legitimate world of Hatton Garden. Cocaine wasn't the only asset Bayan moved. Beneath the gold and drugs lay something more dangerous: firearms. He didn't advertise them. Instead, he offered select buyers weapons through the same encrypted channels he used for drugs. Records later recovered showed discussions about self-loading pistols and compact firearms, built for rapid deployment. Precision, secrecy, and lethality were all part of the plan. One key buyer was Jody Hall, a 51-year-old man from Bromley, using the EncroChat alias Unbeaten Moose. Bayan employed a middleman known only as the Boxer to inspect every firearm before it changed hands. The process was meticulous, each transaction verified, each weapon accounted for. In July 2020, Hall was arrested while collecting one of Bayan's firearms. Bayan immediately knew the implications. He messaged his network about a potential plan to spring Hall from custody, detailing officers' routines and even claiming prior contacts had performed such rescues. The plan never moved past encrypted conversation, but it revealed just how far Bayan was willing to go to protect his network. Even while juggling firearms and escape plans, Bayan continued managing cocaine shipments, cash flow through Hatton Garden, and laundering operations. The operation was complex, but he prioritized efficiency over spectacle. By late 2020, the network began to show signs of strain. Operation Venetic, a coordinated effort by the National Crime Agency, NCA, and Metropolitan Police, had cracked EncroChat. Suddenly, every encrypted conversation was readable. Every alias was tied to a real identity. The empire Bayan and Devlin had built for years was suddenly exposed. For investigators, it wasn't just about cocaine and money laundering. It was insight into a fully formed criminal enterprise with international reach, military-style planning, and financial engineering. First came Chris O'Shea, the Hatton Garden jeweller who had converted bundles of street cash into clean gold. NCA and Organised Crime Partnership, OCP, teams raided his shop and home in New Eltham. Inside, investigators found records, transaction logs, and evidence linking O'Shea to the broader £190 million network. The arrest itself was quiet. No high-speed chases, no resistance. O'Shea's world of gold and luxury collapsed in an instant. Later, at Maidstone Crown Court, he pleaded guilty to money laundering and drug-related offences and received an 11-year prison sentence. With O'Shea neutralised, investigators turned their attention to the architects, Bayan and Devlin.
Matthew Bayan was arrested at his home in Sevenoaks. On the surface, the house looked ordinary, a tidy suburban residence. Inside, however, officers discovered £20,000 in cash hidden in a drawer, evidence of secret deposits, a new Jaguar, and a blinking EncroChat handset, still containing fragments of the empire he had managed for years. His partner, Bo Devlin, was found at his flat on Wheel Road. His stash was smaller, roughly £5,000 in ready cash, but it was enough to draw attention. Officers also discovered a surveillance bug detector, tools for checking if he was being monitored, CS spray, and designer clothing that reflected his wealth. Neither man had expected capture, relying on encrypted devices and silent operations to keep them safe. But the door to their empire had been forced open. By early 2025, authorities had pieced together years of evidence, decoded EncroChat messages showing shipment logistics and financial operations, photographs documenting the movement of cocaine from South America to Europe, asset records, including gold bars, luxury watches, and shell company documents, seized cash totaling millions of pounds. The evidence painted a clear picture. Bayan and Devlin had orchestrated a sophisticated international criminal enterprise spanning continents, managing tons of cocaine and laundering profits on a massive scale. The trial began in January 2025. Both men entered guilty pleas for the core charges, signalling awareness of the overwhelming case against them. Matthew Bayan, then 44, admitted to cocaine importation and money laundering.
Firearms charges were left on file, potentially revivable in the future. Bo Devlin, aged 33, pleaded guilty to drug trafficking and money laundering offences. Public records showed little mitigation. The evidence against both men left them with limited legal options. The prosecution, led by the OCP, outlined how Bayon and Devlin had coordinated multi-ton cocaine shipments via European ports, including Antwerp, using dummy consignments and sophisticated smuggling methods. They highlighted the laundering operation through Hatton Garden, detailing exchanges of street cash for gold and high-end watches.
On 7th March 2025, the court delivered its verdict. Matthew Bayon, 21 years and 6 months. Bo Devlin, 17 years. In total, the two men faced 38.5 years behind bars. Once hidden behind encrypted screens, false companies, and silent shipments, Bayon and Devlin were now confronted with the full weight of the law. The operation had been staggering. Cocaine shipments measured in tons, not kilos. Profits laundered through a legitimate jewellery shop in Hatton Garden. Firearms distributed with meticulous oversight. International logistics spanning South America, Europe, and the UK. For almost a decade, the empire moved in silence. When exposed, it revealed a criminal operation with sophistication and reach rarely seen outside organised crime investigations. What makes this case notable isn't just the drugs or money involved. It's the combination of organised strategy, logistics, security, and finance handled with precision. Scale, multi-ton cocaine shipments and multi-million-pound laundering. Resilience, operations running quietly for years without interception. And yet, no network is impervious. Operation Venetic demonstrated that even the most encrypted platforms and carefully hidden empires can collapse under coordinated investigation. Bayon and Devlin are behind bars. But the story also serves as a blueprint for law enforcement. Technology, intelligence, and patience can dismantle even the most sophisticated criminal systems. Two men who had once operated in shadows, from East London blocks to the quiet streets of Sevenoaks, were now serving decades in prison. Their empire, worth nearly £190 million, collapsed not with gunfire or dramatic arrests, but through intelligence, patience, and the slow unraveling of encrypted communication. What do you make of it? The scale of the cocaine smuggling, the laundering, the firearms network. Should Bayon and Devlin have faced even longer sentences? Or does the court's ruling match the magnitude of their crimes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. For more detailed explorations of real crime cases, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned. The underworld has many stories, and this is just one of the cases uncovered through diligent investigative work.